Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the 31 Days of Horror. I am your host, Mood616, and thank you once again for stopping in, guys. Yes, 31 Days of Horror Volume 7, Day 12, coming at you live. Alright, so we are going to take it back to 2004 with a film that I really didn't know a whole lot about until Severin's other company, Intervision, decided to release this one. So I kind of looked into it and I was like, you know what, that sounds like something that I would be very much interested. It's a film that's directed by Kenneth J. Hall, who did Evil Spawn in 1987 under Fred Olen Ray. And he's mostly known for, actually he also directed Liana Quigley's Horror Workout in 1990, which is actually kind of his last full-length movie. Before he did this one in 2004, which is a long spread, like 14, 15 years between films. But he spent most of his time working at Full Moon as an effects artist, and he did lots of films like Puppet Master and just tons of films as an effects artist and other various jobs on films and things like that. So yeah, I was kind of curious on this one right here, and it is called The Halfway House. 2004, and now it got me a little bit worried, though. I was like, okay, so he hasn't directed a movie in like 14, 15 years. Being 2004, that's kind of that, like, still at that ugly age of horror film era. There's a lot of films from this era that were just very ugly looking or they were very heavily, on the CG and stuff like that. But the one thing I was kind of looking forward to is checking out because, him being an effects artist, I'm like, it might not be CG, it might be actually practical effects. So I didn't really know what I was going to get myself into with this one. But reading the premise, I was like, this sounds pretty much up my alley. So yeah, The Halfway House from 2004. Basically, the premise of the film is it follows our lead character, Larissa. Now, her sister has recently gone missing, and she needs to find out what's happened to her. So she goes to the police station. Of course, these cops are fucking dummies. They're pretty much no help. Anyway, she kind of hooks up with this cop after the fact. And he tells her that, this younger cop, and he tells her that other girls in her area have gone missing and stuff like that. So it's something that it might be related to her sister going missing and stuff, which ultimately leads them to this halfway house. And so he goes up there, he asks some questions and stuff, and things don't seem right at this halfway house. They just seem like they might be hiding something. And Larissa is kind of convinced that something might be going on in there. So what she does is she decides that she wants to infiltrate the halfway house. So she goes there, checks herself into it to see, kind of take a look around. There she meets this kind of evil sister played by Mary Warrenoff, this very perverted priest who likes to spank all the girls in the halfway house. And of course, you got this like really creepy handyman around the place who kind of looks like a bloated, like an inflated Steve Buscemi character. It's kind of funny. I mean, he's just really damn creepy looking. And so now she's in the halfway house and she's taking a look around. She's got to figure out what the fuck is going on because there's a lot of girls that are running away from this place that are not coming back. So that is the premise of the movie for y'all. Now, my thoughts on this one. Basically, if you took a nunsploitation film, a woman's in prison film, and you mixed it up with some Lovecraft, this is exactly what you get. You get The Halfway House. Man, it is like that to a T. It's like straight exploitation. It's nunsploitation. It's Christploitation. I mean, they're exploiting the hypocrisies of religion here. It feels like once she gets into the halfway house, it just feels like a women's in prison film. It really does. Like everyone's always yelling, and it's just like martial law in there and stuff. It's just all women. There's a bunch of women that hate each other. They're all fighting. They're having aggressive lesbian sex. You got this perverted priest that's doing his thing. It just feels like a women in prison film. And then, of course, you got Mary Warrenoff's character, who she plays like this evil sister who's up to no good. She's doing stuff in the basement that she's not supposed to be doing, which kind of leads us into the fact that this is a very Lovecraft film. It does have a Cthulhu character in it. So you kind of put all that shit together and you're like, damn, this is amazing. So yeah, so like my overall thoughts in the movie, it's a really damn fun film. If you love exploitation films like nunsploitation, you like films that deal with the hypocrisies of religion, if you like Lovecraft, you like women in prison films, you're really going to enjoy this because it does have a lot of those elements all over the place. Perverted people, just crazy amounts of tits and ass and aggressive sex and of course, the one thing I was really kind of concerned about is that if they were going to have practical effects in this, because I'm thinking I really can't stand Lovecraft movies that have shitty Cthulhu monsters and shitty effects and stuff. For some reason, I just always think if you're going to do a Lovecraft film, you have to have practical effects, and you do. You actually do have practical effects. So all the gore effects, all the kills in this movie are practical. The Cthulhu character actually is practical, which he looks pretty damn cool in my opinion. I think it looks pretty neat. It's actually a really big Cthulhu. So that's really cool and stuff. Now, the film overall, acting-wise, Mary Woodruff, she's got to be the most solid actor in the film. Of course, she is from, like, Intervision, one of my all-time favorite 80s films. Eating Raoul, she's fantastic, man. But she pulls off the character. I think it's really good casting, actually, to have her as the evil sister in this. She just kind of looks the part, like, big time. So the acting overall in the film is actually quite a mixed bag. Like, there's some people that are so much better than others in this film. It's kind of off-putting when you're watching the film a little bit. Like, you have a really solid scene, and then, like, even our lead actress, she's not really the most solid actress in the world, and at times it's a little off-putting, but she's better in certain scenes than others. It's very strange. It's like, I don't know how they filmed this film, but she looks a little bit different, and she feels different from scene to scene. I think that's kind of interesting. I don't know why it's like that, but maybe it's just the way they filmed it. I have no idea. But, yeah, so the acting overall, and I really don't like to focus a lot on these indie films and the acting and stuff like that, because it is what it is. A lot of the people do actually have quite a few credits and things like that. So, but the music is really good in the film. I think it's actually shot pretty well. I like what they did. They created a pretty decent atmosphere. They created a very nice kind of halfway house with what they were doing with these characters and stuff. Everything was captured quite well. Everyone's creepy and memorable and things like that. So, yeah, you know, man, I really like the fact that I was expecting this one to go into a place where I wasn't really going to like it too much. I was expecting this one to be a lot more comedic, given the elements that were given here, you know, the exploitive angles, you know, with the aggressive women's in prison type, like lesbian sex and all these perverted and weirdo characters and evil and, you know, these cops. Really, the only comedic elements in here is kind of the doofus cops, really. Like, our lead character, she'll say something to her, you know, the young cop that she's been involved with and stuff, and he's just like, huh? But, like, the comedy is very subtle in the film, which was very it kind of took me back a little bit. I was expecting it to be a little bit more goofy for what we were given here, but it kind of plays a little bit more straightforward than you think it would be, which is what I'm trying to say, which is quite shocking for all the elements given here for this type of film. You think it would be a lot more stupid, but it actually is a lot more fun than goofy. So that was a big plus for the film, mixed with the practical effects, the good soundtrack, and just the pure sheer exploitiveness of this. Now, if you're not into exploitation type films, I would probably stay away from this, because it does, man. If you know anything about women in prison films, it has that written all over here. Like, it's just hilarious the second she gets into this halfway house. It's just non-stop, like, aggressive women beating on each other or having aggressive lesbian sex or just hating on each other. It's so ridiculous. You know, there's full shower scenes, which I think actually it might even be on the menu behind me, actually. I just realized that I think there actually is tits, so hopefully you guys can't see that. With my luck, I'll get fucking flagged as usual. But yeah, like, it's a lot different given the premise. Like, you hear this premise, you're like, oh my god, it's gonna be so bad. It's not mind-blowing. It's not bad either. If you like Lovecraft, exploitation films, these type of things, you're gonna like this. I couldn't see how you could not like this movie, because they put it together and they utilize those elements actually quite nice. I was expecting the priest angle to be a little bit more exploitive, but, you know, really, I mean, there's a couple scenes where he has to punish his girls because, you know, whatever. But he just spanks the shit out of them. But the funny thing about his character is that he's actually trying to do good inside this halfway house, but he's just kind of a piece of shit himself. It's like a weird, strange character. I don't know. But Mary Woodruff, she definitely steals the show in the film. She's fantastic. So, but the halfway house rating, I'm going to come in at a 7.5 out of 10. It's solid. It's not mind-blowing. It's definitely worth the watch. It definitely was a lot better than I expected it to be honest. I thought it was going to be a lot more low budget. I was a little bit worried about the effects and things like that, but all that shit came through. It actually did come through, which is quite surprising for me. So, yeah, like 70s exploitation meets 80s splatter. That's, you know, it's a good way. It's a good way of wrapping it up, you know, a little bit. So, but if that sounds up your alley, The Halfway House is something you need to check out from Intervision. I think you can. They're readily available. I think it's actually quite cheap because it's a Severin titles, or it's an Intervision title. So, but if you like what you heard, give it a shot. I definitely recommend it for the people that like those type of films. So, yeah, definitely a lot of. There's a lot of nudity. There's a lot of nudity, which is expected in a storyline like that. So, but anyways, guys, that's gonna do it here for day 12, and I will check you guys tomorrow on day 13. And as usual, deuces.